Well, the Sexsmith at 60 concert, I mean, I got the idea probably when I was about 57, and 60 was sort of looming, and I wasn't really looking forward to it. But I thought, I mean, you know, 60 has an X, Sexsmith has an X, and I figured it'd be kind of a shame not to do something with that. And originally I thought maybe the label would be into doing like a retrospective record, you know, Sexsmith at 60. But then it's always hard to get those sort of things off the ground, I find, in my career. And then I just thought, well, how about like a concert? You know, it's been a long time since I've played Massey Hall. I really felt that was the only place it could be, and if it wasn't going to be there, I wasn't going to do it. But it was just, for me, I guess the whole point of it was, and maybe I'm delusional, but sometimes I don't feel that whatever my contribution is in Canada to the Canadian songbook, I don't feel it's all that valued, you know, at least not recently. And so I guess in a way I wanted to do a concert to sort of stand up for myself. The first time I played Massey Hall was 2006, was, you know, definitely a career highlight because, you know, I worked as a courier downtown, you know, for the 80s and early 90s, and I used to pass by Massey Hall all the time. And there were many concerts that I couldn't afford to go to, but I would listen by the stage door, you know, and it was just this place that I thought, you know, I'll never fill like, you know, Maple Leaf Gardens or something, but Massey Hall, it seemed not out of the question, not that far-fetched that maybe someday I could fill it. So I really wanted to hold off until I was able to headline, or if that day ever should come. And so when it finally did, I couldn't believe it. You know, my parents were there. Gordon Lightfoot came out to see me. And you know, obviously I was very nervous because it's the room, you know, all Dylan, Leonard Cohen, you think of all the greats that played there, and you want to try to live up to the room. It's always flattering when someone does your song, you know, and usually I'm the last to know about it. You know, when Rod Stewart did my song, I mean, they don't have to get my permission, they just, you know, they go through the publisher. You know, I mean, I remember when Katie Lang did Fall, and that was really meaningful to me because she's such, you know, she's always been really nice to me, and she's just one of those singers. She could, you know, literally sing the phone book, you know, she's that good. And I thought that was interesting, her version, because that particular song she did was a waltz that I wrote it, you know, 3/4, and she straightened it out to 4/4, which I thought was interesting. And I like how Feist did Secret Heart, because that's one of my most covered songs, and people tend to do it pretty sort of for rote. And she did a kind of almost sort of Euro pop. It was sort of more up-tempo, and I thought that was interesting, you know. So, but yeah, it's just always, you know, they're like my babies, right? So when you see someone like Bublé or whatever doing them, it just, my thought is, well, I hope, you know, hope that they're not going to let the singer down, you know, that there's not going to be any like cracks in the foundation of the song and all that kind of stuff. And so that, but I'm also, there's a lot of pride, like, oh, look, my little kiddies are gone out into the world and they're, you know, meeting other people or something. So it's a whole bunch of emotions. The Elvis Costello one, especially because that was December of 1995. My first album had only been out in North America, and it was not doing well. So at the time there were all these rumors that I was going to be dropped. And I was feeling like, oh, you know, my career barely got started and I'm already being dropped. So when Elvis he held up my album on the cover of a magazine, and it changed everything. Because back then, probably if he did it today, it wouldn't have had the same effect, but at that particular time, it was like the shot heard around the world. And I was able to get my album out overseas where I found my audience, you know. UK and Ireland are still sort of my biggest markets, but also he opened up Japan and, you know, Australia and those places. So, but it's just so surreal, you know, like Elton John, I was a member of his fan club when I was a kid, and now we email each other, you know, it's sort of, it's just so surreal. And I got to work with Ray Davies, I've got to, yeah, you know, you mentioned McCartney, I had to meet him on my very first UK tour, which is just, yeah, it's just all pinch me kind of stuff, right? I think it ultimately it was getting signed so late. You know, I was 30 when I got my first record deal. I think that ultimately it was a good thing because I remember in my early 20s, I was trying to get a record deal, but I had some really sort of awful songs. You know, I hadn't found and also, you know, I was going to these open stages, hearing these really great songwriters like Bob Snyder and Sam Larkin and people like that. And then I'd go up and play my song, and I'd be like, my stuff needs work. You know, it's not quite there yet. But I think around the time I got signed, I had finally found my voice, my songwriting voice, and you know, and so I'm kind of relieved actually it took so long. Although at the time it was hard because a lot of people were telling me, oh, you know, you should get a job at the post office or something because music's probably not going to happen for you. You know, with the Vivian line. You know, that album, I mean, I'm still writing a fair bit. I think there was a time in the beginning where I was like a songwriting frenzy and I was just writing so much, like a lot of younger artists do. I'm still writing a fair bit, but the Vivian line sort of came out of nowhere. I wasn't planning on making another album, but it's like I don't have a lot of say in the matter, you know, because I'm just doing my daily thing, and I get this idea, and you have to my job is really just to notice these ideas and make mental notes, and then just keep sort of going back to them until they're finished. And you know, but I'm not really good at anything else. So I've just been really lucky that I wasn't like a fluke or something. A one album guy, you know. And because I always wanted to have a body of work, and you know, in 17 albums, I mean, who would have thought, right? Sometimes in the old days, I would get really stuck on a song, and I might have a really good first verse, and I couldn't think of anything for the second verse. And I find with experience, I'm able to sort of, you know, I recognize, oh, I've been here before. I know how I can get out of it, you know, and I recognize, you know, I kind of pull my hair out over like the structure, and if the first verse sings really well, I want the second verse to sing just as well. I don't want to have any extra bits, you know, or syllables. I really sort of put a lot into that. But, you know, for me, obviously, I write a certain kind of song. Melody's the easy part. Lyrics, you know, I think I know when I'm patient and I'm not in a big rush, they turn out pretty good. But yeah, I think I've been doing it long enough now that I could sort of, I recognize, oh yeah, I'm here again. I'm in the middle of this batch of songs, and I don't sweat it because I know eventually they're going to be finished. For me, you know, it's such an important, I mean, to have something to say, to have a point of view, and the way you say it, you know, because every song, Randy Newman writes a certain kind of lyric, obviously, that's very different from what, you know, Paul McCartney or John Lennon does, or, you know, or Warren Zevon or something, you know. And so you want to try to figure out, and obviously there have been so many songs written about love and that, so you want to come at it from a different angle, if possible. And some people, they avoid, you know, cliches and stuff. Which I run towards cliches because I think if there's a reason, there's an expression that's, you know. So and for me, it's very important that the lyrics are kind of graceful, if possible, and to have a kind of nuance and subtlety, and that's what Johnny Mercer had and Cole Porter and those guys. Like there's a serious mind at work, you know, and I mean, obviously, you know, different. I love hard rock music too, and there's different kind of lyrics for that, and you know what I mean. So it's just whatever you're doing, you just want it. You want it to be something that you can't get anywhere else.